everyone. Welcome back to the Film Fund podcast. I'm your host, founder, and executive producer at the Film Fund, Thomas Verdi. I'm also an award-winning filmmaker, producer, and film festival judge. I started the Film Fund to give filmmakers an easier, alternative way to get their films funded. Instead of working on a screenplay, crowdfunding campaign, or grant application, you write one sentence pitching your film for a chance to receive up to $10,000 and other prizes to make it. Our summer 2022 narrative and documentary funding contests are now open. So check out the filmfund.co to enter your one sentence pitch for a chance to receive up to $10,000 to make your film. I want to remind listeners that if you're listening at a later date, contests do happen regularly. So check out the website at thefilmfund.co for the most up-to-date information. Today we have an interesting guest. We have a non-filmmaker for I think the first time ever. We have Colin Mackey, who is the Film Fund go-to computer dude, software developer, programmer, whatever you want to call him. Colin is our contractor who works on some of the back-end projects for the Film Fund, things like helping sort entries and judging software. Judges are judged by real human beings, as you see on our website, but we do have some software that helps sort that process and make it a little bit easier to get through. So Colin makes our jobs a lot easier. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, Colin. Appreciate it. You can give yourself a much better intro than Computer Dude, I'm sure. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Tom. So I've been a web developer for about 8 years now. After college, and I work with JavaScript frameworks like React, Vue, Angular, um, building front end web applications. And so, so I consulted for about 7 years after college, and then said, heck, might as well branch out and do some freelance work, do some more interesting projects. So that's how we came to work together.
Yeah, an interesting story there. Colin actually used to be my neighbor. I was moving into a new apartment, and I was locked out the day I was moving in, and I don't know if I was cursing up a storm, but I was definitely yelling and frustrated. And he was
you were on the phone.
I was on the phone. I was like, I'm locked out. What the F?
Yeah.
The moving truck's coming in 5 minutes, and Colin pops his head out of the window above my apartment. He goes, "Oh, are you locked out?" And I was just like, it was a mix of me being like friendly and frustrated. I was like, "Yeah. So what do you do?" He was like, "Oh, I'm a software developer." I was like, "Oh, cool. I might be able to use you sometime." And I ended up hiring him for one of our first projects, and that was like, like 2 years ago, year and a half.
Yeah.
Time flies.
At least 2 years ago now. Yeah.
So super interesting recruiting process we have here at the Film Fund.
Yeah, it's a very strict process.
Yes, we really have to go through
the steps.
It's very, very intense. But yeah, no, Colin's done great work. Tell us a little bit about like what you do for the Film Fund and the projects you work on.
So basically, I've been working on a piece of software for Tom for the Film Fund, where I guess, are they judges or who evaluates the entries?
Yeah, the judges, and then
judges. That's the word.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, and the feedback writers. So it's a system for the feedback writers to use to kind of sort through, upload all of the entries, kind of sort through them, and then individually go through and provide feedback for the entries that want feedback, and then the system will automatically email the feedback to those entries. So it's a pretty streamlined process, and from what I understand, it's really helps you guys to get more organized and to not have to do this all manually.
Yeah, no, it's super helpful. Before we would have the feedback written, and then the process of it was all in a Google Doc. So then like the process of actually sending it, I did it manually, and actually, it was automated a little bit. I hired someone on Upwork to send them all. So like automated, but like someone just going through the inbox and clicking send, so literally sending them manually. And I was like, that is just not an efficient process. So we came up with a little bit of a more streamlined solution. But all the feedback's still personalized. It's all still written by real people. This software just helps us like organize a little bit and get it sent out. A lot of the what do you call it? administrative. I guess that's a good word to use. Clerical. Yeah, it helps streamline that a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so do you, a lot of people think programming is kind of just like, you're sitting at a computer for hours, and like that is, I guess, what it is. But do you,
It's a lot of it
yeah,
for sure.
do you find aspects of it creative?
Yeah, for sure. Especially being a front end web developer, I'm often able to flex my more design oriented side and kind of I like to do things like influence user experience. Usually when I go to build a website, regardless of whether I have designs or not, I'll say to myself, hey, would I come here and not have an issue with it?
Hmm.
I'm pretty opinionated when it comes to what I like on websites and how they work, and so I try to bring that into my work. Um, Even though it's not necessarily required, it's just something that I
Hmm.
do. But yeah, so for sure there is a creative aspect to it in that respect.
Hmm. What are some techniques you use for coming up with ideas or solutions?
I do a lot of finding examples. Like if I'm going to design a site and it actually has to look good, I'll go and find examples of sites that I like personally that I think could fit with the requirements of the client. I will send those over to the client, say, hey, these are my ideas. Do you like them? If not, that's fine. I'll keep looking. If so, we can use this as a jumping off point and say, hey, do you want this element, this kind of animation, this kind of parallax,
Hmm.
or whatever, and then kind of just build an idea board before going in with the full design.
That's actually super similar to like pre-production process for filmmaking,
Hmm.
especially you said idea board.
Yeah,
We use mood boards a lot in terms of
yeah.
different images, different color schemes for the what kind of color grade do you want for the film,
Hmm.
and then you get in the corporate world, you're doing more agency work. Like we'll send comparison videos to clients, or we'll ask them like, hey, do you have a video you have in mind? What do you want this to look like? Do you have any examples? So it's very creative, especially when you get into, like you said, the front end aspects of design.
Hmm.
I think creativity, you can pull out different aspects, whether it's programming or pre-producing a film. You always have to start somewhere and talk about ideas, and that's super cool. I think it's
Hmm.
always interesting to me to find like overlap in things. Like a lot of people think, oh, programming, that's just super technical, but there's a lot of creativity there too.
It's not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big creative aspect to it. Yeah,
Hmm.
for sure. I mean, you mentioned color grading. Color palette on a website is
Oh
extremely
yeah.
important to be able to have and to have some like some cohesiveness to the design. You want a color palette that says, "Hey, this is where I am. I know where I am," and everything flows through that.
Hmm.
Um, so things like that, you have color palettes you have to think about. You have typography you have to think about. And I know this is probably stuff that's more like titles and credits kind of
Yeah, for
thing, but
sure.
you have to choose the type for your titles and end
Hmm.
credits. You have to choose what they look like, right? When I think about designing sections on a website, I have to think about heading hierarchy. The biggest at the top, and then smaller headings moving down.
Hmm.
Because that's just how the eye kind of browses through a website. You look at the big headline, you have smaller headlines, subheadings, text, that kind of thing. So you break it down into the kind of those
Hmm.
sections.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. The text. I mean, obviously, that's a huge part of a
Hmm.
film. The
It's a
opening
huge part of it. Yeah.
credits and sequences, and even getting into that agency conversation again, lower thirds titling, or where does the client
Yeah.
logo go, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
We had a, a course in my grad program. It was called, which was like an entrepreneurship, product development, smorgasbord kind of of a program. But one of the courses was methods in visual thinking. Um, and it was all about typefaces and design, and so much of it was applicable to film too. It was making me think about cinematography and blocking and framing, and also where does the text go on
Yeah.
screen. So there's just so much, like we live in a visual world, and like so much of our world is how we perceive it. So I think
Hmm.
it's super interesting to talk to you about like how you look at a website and how that can translate to maybe a filmmaker out there thinking like, oh, well, like what's my opening credit I mean, opening credit sequences are generally, I guess, more for feature films rather than shorts, which is what we talk about mostly on this show. But end
Hmm.
credits, that's definitely a thing, or trailers. Like, yeah, you need to think about titling and color palettes and color grading, and just thinking about that too in terms of say say a filmmaker needs to make a website to market themselves. So like actually something
Yeah.
more in your wheelhouse. What would you
Yeah, for sure.
recommend? Like, should they just go and like make a Squarespace site, or should they learn something a little more in depth?
Oh, there are so many products out there, from just basic WordPress templates and blogs to Squarespace, which is an excellent tool. I've used it before for clients, and it really, I can't speak well enough of it. To things like Shopify or something like that if you want to do a storefront, or like I'm currently working on a project with a system called Webflow, which is a designer oriented website building system where it's essentially drag and drop, but you have the power of all of these stylistic changes that you would normally make with code, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But they build that all right in, so you don't really have to learn all that code.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of jump in and start moving things around. um, so yeah, it's uh it's definitely easy to find tools out there to build websites
Mm-hmm.
nowadays.
Yeah, I have so one of our clients actually for FF Branded, Particle Health, they recently redid their website in Webflow and they had a great experience with it. I use, if I just have to throw up like a quick and dirty website, like if you want to go to the Film Fund parent company's website, it's discontent.media. I made that with a free WordPress template called Hello and a web page builder called Elementor. And it's literally just like
Hmm.
3 links that link to each of the other sites, but I made it in probably like less than an hour. Like it's so, if you just need like a simple presence online, like definitely it's a lot easier than a lot of people think.
Yeah,
It's overwhelming. Like, oh, website, it's become so easy today. You don't need to pay like thousands of
it
dollars
has.
for
It
a
has.
website, especially like if you're a filmmaker. Just get either pay the money for Squarespace. I think it's like, I don't know, $100 or something a year. Um, Put it in
Yeah,
your
it's
film
really not that
budget. Like
bad.
honestly, just make it part
Hmm.
of one of your
Yeah.
film
So I
projects.
mean, that's a great
Yeah,
idea. I
marketing.
mean, online presence is such a huge part of marketing
Hmm.
these days. Like it's almost essential. Like you can't
Yeah.
get away without it. Um, I mean, so that being said, like even something as simple as social media
Hmm.
presence is just massively important. Like full website is a great to have, but honestly, a Facebook page is invaluable these
Hmm.
days.
Yeah, you definitely got to market yourself, and have that presence. I, as much as I hate social media, like it's it's necessary if you're a filmmaker today. Like you need to be putting your work out there. You
Yeah,
never
it
know
really
who's
is.
going to see it. Like, and whether like YouTube too.
Hmm.
Don't forget about YouTube as a social media platform. Like that's
Oh
a lot
God,
of
no,
filmmakers
definitely
are.
don't.
They think Vimeo is the best, and it's, yeah, sure, it has a sleeker design and there are no ads, and there's Vimeo, what do they call it, Vimeo staff picks and all of that, but YouTube's great too.
Hmm.
Like if someone's googling you and they Google your short film, like Google owns YouTube, so like YouTube is likely going to come up over a Vimeo link,
It's going to be on top. Yeah,
perhaps.
it's going to be on top without any
Yeah,
SEO work on your part.
exactly. So, and just there's no rule saying you can't be on both platforms, Vimeo and YouTube. So I'm a big
No,
advocate
there's not. Yeah.
for just posting your film everywhere you can. Once you get through the
Hmm.
festival route, and because some festivals do have what do you call it, premiere status requirements. They don't want it online, but once some don't care, especially for shorts. But I'm always a big, and take everything I'm saying in the short film world, because features are a little bit more complicated in terms of distribution rights and where it's streaming and all of that. But for shorts, I think post that sucker everywhere. Hell, post it to Facebook. You can do Facebook
Yeah.
videos. You can do IGTV videos. I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure I have um, my last short film, Son of Blackbeard, on like Instagram, maybe the full length version. If not, I have a teaser trailer on there. So yeah, marketing is a huge part of it, and put your
Yep.
link in your bio. Either get there's this website called Linktree that we use at the Film Fund. Although our most recent addition to the team, our marketing uh, specialist Jet, says he hates link in bio because it's just another step, separating from your
Right.
website.
Yeah. Why not just put
Exactly.
put
Why
the
not
actual
just
link there? It's
make
kind of
a
a cheat.
responsive
Yeah.
page? But it's easy to use out of the box. You can add your links to your website and your YouTube page. It's
Hmm.
a good first step if you don't necessarily know how to make a responsive web page. But anyway, the whole point of that tangent, I just drank a 16-ounce cup of coffee, if you couldn't tell. The whole point of that was marketing is important and get on social media. Um,
It's
yeah,
insanely important.
especially as a creative, and we're in a visual medium too,
It's yeah.
so you can like showcase your work.
Hmm.
It's not like you're a
Yeah.
novelist or something
Exactly.
like that. um, you can post stills, you can post clips.
Mhm.
and you can embed them on your website. So very, very nifty
Yeah.
stuff out there today. Um, so what kind of music, or not music, movies do you like? What kind of films do you like watching?
What kind of films do I like? I do get into the indie film world a lot of the time. One of my favorite directors is Charlie Kaufman. I guess you wouldn't really call him indie, but
Hmm.
more like culty kind of less
Hmm.
blockbustery movies.
Oh, did he do
I
the
do
one
appreciate
with
a lot.
Killing John Malkovich? Is that him? Or is that someone?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Being
Being
John
John Malkovich. Oh
Malkovich.
my God, Killing John
Yeah.
Malkovich. Well,
Oh,
I'm thinking of
great
Killing
film.
Him Softly, I
Yeah,
think.
killing. Yeah.
Sorry, John Malkovich.
Sorry, John Malkovich, you're not dead yet.
Being John Malkovich. So he wrote
Everyone
that, and
collectively
then
sighed in
did
relief.
Spike Jones do that as well, or am I getting things mixed up?
I can't recall. I do know the script is Charlie
Okay. If
Kaufman,
anyone, I'm going to Google it real quick
because
since we
it's
have the
just
internet available.
yeah.
Um,
Feel free, you can call me out
what's it
here.
called?
Synecdoche, New York is another favorite of his of mine. That was written and directed by him, and it is like the most Kaufman-esque film around. It's just so
Mhm.
meta and so
Okay, yeah, so we
ridiculous.
were both right.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman
Being
stars in
John
that.
Malkovich
Oh, we
was
were okay. Good.
directed by Spike Jones, written by Charlie Kaufman.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. um, but yeah, Synecdoche, New York stars Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's just completely
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's a highly recommended
You
film
told
for
me about that
anyone who
one a
likes
couple of
weird
years ago, and I
stuff.
never watched it. I need to check that one out.
Oh, please, you
Yeah.
gotta check it out. It's really cool, and the soundtrack is
Yeah.
excellent too.
Oh, I just saw
Yeah,
the
it's
new Jurassic Park movie last night, which was, it was exactly what I expected. Probably,
yeah, the popcorn
yeah, exactly.
blockbuster.
I did get some popcorn, which is good. Um, what do you
Nice.
like about the Charlie Kaufman works?
I like how much he makes me think a lot of the time. I mean, you think of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind,
Oh,
and
that's Charlie
he just
Kaufman.
doesn't. He takes you on this journey.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that movie.
he wrote it. I know it's excellent. He just takes you on this journey with the dialogue that never really feels settled throughout the entire film. Like it's always kind of
Hmm.
uneasy, and it's so interesting to me to think about why I feel that way with the writing.
Hmm.
Um, and I just really like exploring the ideas that he puts up. Um, and he gets really meta sometimes,
Yeah,
which is super
yeah, yeah.
fun.
No, I love meta stuff. I just watched the trailer
Yeah.
for um, Clerks 3, Kevin Smith's latest. It's so meta.
Does he get
Oh
meta
yeah,
in it?
like
I think they're too old for that shit.
everything is like a reference to Clerks or Clerks 2 or
It's a
like
Clerks, yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Um,
We assure you
yeah.
we're open.
I love Clerks. He's taking that on tour too. In
Is he really?
classic Kevin Smith fashion. Yeah, I think he's gonna do like
Yeah.
screenings throughout. He didn't. I don't think he announced like the tour dates yet, but I've seen him in person a few times. Definitely, um, like if you're an indie filmmaker out there, and I just, Kevin Smith's work is a little all over the place for me. It's like
Hmm.
I love Clerks, but then he also like gets into toilet humor sometimes. Some of his other work, and it's just like this is so like Kevin, you've made some fucking stupid movies, as you know, as you've admitted to.
Yeah.
But I respect the hell out of his story. Like he was working in that convenience store and he filmed there at
Yeah.
night. If you don't know the story, he was working in a convenience store during the day, and
Hmm.
then at night he filmed the movie Clerks in the convenience store, maxed out like 6 credit cards or
On
something.
like
Yeah, like put his
$0,
friends in
yeah.
it, and he worked it into the plot too. That's
Yeah.
why he says like the shutters are jammed shut or something. There's gum in the locks. That's
Hmm.
because it was nighttime when he was filming, and he just like kept them closed. And he
Yeah.
filmed it in Leonardo, New Jersey, which we're in Philly, so it's like an hour or so away. So I've been to the quick stop. But yeah, definitely love Kevin Smith, and I love meta stuff too. Definitely very different than Charlie Kaufman though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I need to watch more Charlie. He does like Broadway stuff too, doesn't he? A little bit.
I can't remember. I wouldn't be too familiar
Yeah,
with
me
that.
either.
That's
I'm not
yeah.
I'm not immersed in
The
the
Broadway
theater
stuff.
world too much.
Yeah.
Except Birdman. I love that movie. Have you seen that?
That's an excellent movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's pretty
Yes,
meta
that was
too,
excellent.
actually, when you think about it.
It's
Yeah.
extremely meta, and what I love the soundtrack for
Mm.
that movie. It's phenomenal.
So what do you think makes a film compelling? Or a pitch? Because I
Oh,
mean, you've seen the film
well,
pitches too. working on the
Yeah.
software. So like, what do you think makes a
Hmm.
pitch or a film compelling, or both?
Yeah, a good story overall. I mean, most of all is essential. Like it's something that grabs me and makes me interested. Something that can grab my attention, something that I haven't seen before or thought of, and put that into a story. That's something that I really enjoy when I'm watching films. Something that I can't look away from because I'm so invested in the story. And I know that's kind of a cliche, but
It's true though.
i- it's real. Like you have to grab people's
Hmm.
attention, right? Um, yeah, so a great story and then great dialogue. I can't be ripped out of the scene by some
Hmm.
shitty dialogue.
Yeah, you'll
um
see that a lot in like
I've
student
got to
films
believe.
or like people's
Yeah.
first films. The dialogue is just so unrealistic a lot of times. If it's an inexperienced writer,
Hmm.
it's just
Yeah.
like, what am I listening to? This
Hmm.
there's a this is the dumbest. God, my references today are very like lowbrow and uncultured. But there's a Family Guy scene where Peter is watching like some like high school or middle school play, and he gives a critique on it, and he's like, I'm very aware of the fact that I'm watching a play. And as dumb as dumb as
Yeah.
that example is, like it's true. Like that's the feeling you get when you're
That's what
watching
it is.
or you're
Yeah.
listening to dialogue that's like not
Hmm.
genuine sounding or not realistic. Um, so my advice
Yep.
is always when you're writing, like read your writing out loud. That goes for prose too.
Yeah, that's or have
Yeah.
someone else read it out loud. Like just get it out in like
Hmm.
verbally in the world, because once you hear something and it's bad, you're just like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, that sounds
Like
horrible."
there, like you'll listen to something and be like, wait, people don't sound like this, or people don't say this. Or a lot of the times,
Yeah.
people will watch a lot of Tarantino movies and they'll add or mobster movies growing up, and they'll just add all the curse words they can, every other word in their script. And that's what I did anyway in one of my
It's a
first
crutch.
my
It's a
first
crutch.
short films. I was like, wait, no one curses this much. Like, what are we? Unless that's where you are and that's the setting, and it is a mobster movie or something. But like, you can overdo it.
Hmm.
Because most
It's very
people
easily
don't
overdone, I
effing
think.
say, this. I don't know why I'm censoring myself today. I say fuck all the time
F
on
this,
on
F
this
that,
podcast.
blah
I just
blah
have to
blah.
check the little box when I'm uploading it that says explicit. Um, no, fuck. There we go. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, always read your stuff out loud. Good story is essential. Good dialogue. Great comment there. Because I just watched a film by or directed by Jim Jarmusch, and it was Coffee and Cigarettes. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or seen that, but it's literally
I'm
like six
unfamiliar.
short films um, of just like people sitting around a table, like having a conversation, drinking coffee, and smoking cigarettes. Steve Buscemi's in it. Kate Blanchett is
Hmm.
in it.
Oh,
The
cool.
GZA and the RZA from Wu Tang Clan are in it. It's so funny. What's his name? Alfred Molina, the guy who played I mean a bunch of stuff, but I know
Oh
him as
yeah,
Doc Ock. Yeah,
Doctor
exactly.
Octopus.
He's in it.
Yeah.
Steve Coogan's in it. It's just so funny. Um, but it's
Oh, I
all
love Steve
dialogue
Coogan.
driven. It's all like it's just there's really no plot, but there is a story in each one of those little
Hmm.
vignettes. Like
Interesting.
there's so much unravels in those conversations. I could go on and on about that film. I want to watch it again. But in each little short film, even though they're in the same room, they're at a coffee table, and you're like, "Where's the story there?" Just the way it's written, it, it evokes like a greater sense of the world, and you get the relationships, and they reference
Interesting.
things that have happened in their lives, and you can tell like maybe this relationship was strained or what's going on here, and things happen like um, Alfred Molina gets a phone call, so like there is a story there. As boring as it sounds, like people sitting around um, drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes, like that's not a movie, but the dialogue is so powerful. They're able to create
But they create
story
it through the
through the
dialogue.
dialogue, which I think is super super cool.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I couldn't
That's really
sleep
neat.
the other day, and I just was up. I was up at like 4 in the morning, and I was like, "What am I gonna do?" So I just put on Criterion Channel, which is definitely a streaming service I would definitely
Nice.
recommend checking out if you haven't heard of it. Um, Either Colin or like just anybody listening to this from our millions
Yeah,
of
that's
what's
the
that?
short films, right?
No,
That's
it's
short
everything.
films, right?
Um, they have everything. Yeah,
Okay.
it's so there's this bigger collection called the Criterion Collection, which is just
Hmm.
either like super indie films or films that are foreign that like didn't get a lot of like U.S. distribution. That are curated by the
Hmm.
Criterion Collection or organization or whatever. Um, a lot of classic films on there, and they have a streaming service now called the Criterion Channel, where they essentially put like their most popular films on there. You used to be able to watch the entire
Cool.
Criterion Collection on Hulu, but then they like lost the rights to it or something, and now they have their own little platform. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
classic.
it definitely check that out because I've seen some gems on there for sure.
Yeah,
A lot of
sounds
foreign
cool. I
films
might have
too.
to.
Like I just went to Philadelphia Film Society. We're based in Philly here. For those of you who don't know, they had a screening of La Ventura. Oh my god, I forget the director, but it was this Italian film. It was absolutely incredible, and that was from the Criterion Channel or the Criterion Collection. So definitely check that out for sure. What else should we
Cool.
talk about? Usually, I ask filmmakers like about the films they're working on or the prizes they won, but you are an interesting guest today. And um, anything else any other comparisons you would make between like, I guess your life and what you do, and maybe creativity or filmmaking, or we could just talk about the weather. I don't really care. It's
Well, it is
beautiful
nice outside
today.
today. I was planning on, yeah, I was planning on going out to play around a disc golf
Oh, nice.
after work this afternoon. So get out there and, yeah, I've been playing
Oh,
a
very
lot
cool.
recently with my
Oh,
buddy
I know Frankie.
Frankie
Frankie was in.
out
Here's a
here
connection.
in Philly. Yeah.
Frankie was in my. So
Oh
I said my
yeah.
last short film was Son of Blackbeard. That's actually not true. That's the last short film I released. My most current short film is called The Toms, where there are all these characters named Tom, and Frankie, mutual friend of ours, is one of the Toms. So yeah, super
Yeah.
super interesting.
I'm actually pretty
It's
excited to
it's
see
really
that.
funny.
I'm excited to see
What's
your
that?
work. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
thank
excited
you.
to see
Yeah,
your
it means a
work.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I've been talking about my work more on this show and the Film Fund as a whole. We started including it in the newsletter. When I first
Mhm.
started, I was like, I didn't want to feel like I was abusing like the platform I created. Like, oh, here's the Film Fund, and
Right.
then like, oh, here's me. But I realized people,
Oh, it's
yeah,
my marketing
exactly. But like,
platform
I
now.
realized people want to see that. Like, I am an actual filmmaker, trying to make it. And so
Yeah.
like, oh, like that actually lends kind of legitimacy to the company.
Hmm.
It's a filmmaker founded company.
Yeah, you're not just some like corporate bigwig
Exactly,
throwing
which a
money around
lot,
at people.
which
You're really
unfortunately
in
is what a
this.
lot
Yep.
of screenwriting contests are in this industry. Yeah,
Really.
um, I won't name any names,
Yeah.
but if you go on one of the big screenwriting contest websites and see their original founders, they're just like investment bankers, and it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, see, that's that they're just so far. They're so far from the
Hmm.
creativity, from the media of it all. How are you
Yeah,
supposed to judge? What's good or not? You can be like the
exactly,
biggest film critic or film fan in the world, but like if you've just got a bunch of money to
yeah,
throw around willy nilly, who are you
exactly.
to judge people?
Um, and money talks, unfortunately. So like, you know,
Yeah, it does very
that's
loudly.
kind of half making it in this world, in this industry is, where's your, do you have money for this? And if you have a budget, there you go. That's your first step in the door. Create your own door. Um, but
Hmm.
yeah. So, do you have any advice for our community, whether it's filmmaking related or marketing related, whatever?
Yeah, sure. I would just say, don't be afraid to start a lot of small projects, even if they're just ideas, and they don't get off the ground. Um, stopping yourself from being creative by thinking ahead and thinking, hey, this isn't going to work out probably because of, such and so reasons that are going on right now.
Hmm.
Start it anyway. Get the idea on paper, be creative with it, and then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But don't get rid of the idea. Have a backlog of random
Yeah,
shit that you
100%.
thought up.
I want to echo that. Like,
So
I have
I
so many projects that I'm working on and have worked on in the past, and it's just like, um, you never know which iron in the fire, is gonna catch. So,
hmm yeah, you never know which
mhm.
one's gonna strike. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely good advice there. Work on stuff and be, as a criticism of myself, be determined and like diligent with these projects. Like when you start projects, like commit to them. Like I have a book that I'm working on. I haven't touched that in like months. Like don't do that. If you like, just make sure the projects you're starting, like, you're actually, seeing them through. Because it doesn't help to have like a million of them too.
Well, yeah. I mean, the flip side of that is like not everything has to be a fully fledged out
Hmm.
project, right? I'm what I'm trying to say is don't be afraid of getting your
Right.
ideas out there and just even idea boarding or
Hmm.
dream boarding an idea, putting that effort into it, and if you want to put it aside for a while, put it
Yeah,
aside.
no,
It's
that's a
fine.
good that's a good point too.
Um,
I'm a big fan of like, I've gotten less and less into using my iPhone a lot, but I used to have like I switched to something called the light phone, which is just
Mhm.
disconnecting a little bit. Anyway, I'm a big fan of writing down ideas, and why I was saying that about the iPhone is I used to just have random story ideas, and I would just write them in the notes file on my iPhone. I had like a huge um, like idea file in there, so like something like that or an idea board, like Colin was saying. That's always super helpful, even if you don't use
Mhm.
the ideas. Like I think this is the process of ideation and creating,
Yeah,
like you
it
working that
is.
muscle is important.
Mhm.
I'm sure the same thing with like
Yeah.
programming and developing. Like you need to use it,
Oh,
and
very
it's a
much
skill you
so.
need to
Yeah. No,
practice.
we exactly. We do a lot of idea boarding and a lot of we call it blue skying. When you're starting on a feature or a project for something, you sit there and think, hey, what are the best features I can think of? You know, what would I want at if like I had every resource, I had all the time in the world, I could do everything that I wanted to. What would I want to put on this
Hmm.
website or in this app? That's
Hmm.
called blue skying. We do that regularly. We practice
I
that,
love that.
and not everything that not everything that we think about there goes into the final product, but a lot
Hmm.
of it does. Because we're thinking of what how we would use this website and what we would want in our wildest dreams, and that helps us to kind of narrow down what's
I think that's a
possible
great idea, even just
and
for
kind of
like creativity in
organize.
general. They could like it just thinking
Yes,
about
for
writing a
sure.
script and building out a world and a character's life. Like you could do that for a character. Like what is everything this character
Yeah.
wants or could possibly want, or like what are all the directions the story could go in? And explore different
Hmm.
conflicts and different stakes. Like I love that. I'm gonna look more into that and just maybe incorporate that into my life. Blue skying.
Yeah.
I like that.
Blue skying. Yep. Yep. It's the process of designing something to your
Love it.
wildest
I love that.
imaginations, even if you're
Yeah,
not actually going to do those
very cool.
things.
So, shameless plug question here for the Film Fund. As
Sure.
usually we're asking this question to winners of the Film Fund or like partners. So this will be interesting for you to answer. But what are some of your favorite things about the Film Fund?
Oh, jeez. So, even though I've worked with you for 2 years, I still am not, completely aware of all of the
Mhm.
things that you do for people. But I do know, um, I do like your feedback process, how you can provide feedback to people who are trying to make short films, um, and then the funding aspect is pretty cool. I think that's really neat that you have people that go and you know physically sit down, read your stuff, provide feedback to it, and then if it's good enough, then maybe you'll get some money. Like I think that's
Nice.
pretty cool.
Yeah, we always our podcast producer threw that question in, so we started asking it, and was like, "This is such a shameless plug." It's like, "What do you like about the Film Fund?"
It's such a shameless
But you got
plug.
to do
It
it.
works though. It's
It's a
cool.
talking point. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you for
yeah,
giving feedback on our feedback process. It's super actually important
yeah,
as someone
yeah. No
who's like
problem.
helped me, you know, iterate the process and really work on it so closely. That it's definitely very meaningful for sure. So what's next for you in the next year or so in terms of your career or projects or whatever?
Yeah, next year or so, I'm working at a, I guess we'll call it a national real money
Okay.
gaming company, um, building a sportsbook app. So I will be at this company for probably the foreseeable future. We'll see where I go after that. As far as freelance work, I'm trying to expand what I'm doing for people, get more clients and whatnot, including probably a revamp of my website and adding the Film
Hell
Fund
yeah.
logo to the bottom
We would be
as a
proud to be
client.
there.
So that's in the works. Yeah. So hopefully
Cool.
I'll get that
And
rolling
back to the
soon.
beginning of our conversation, what platform will you be using or framework will you be using to create this new website?
Let's see. So I haven't made that decision per se. I'm working with Vue right now at my job, so my gut says just go with what I'm
Mhm.
currently working on because it's the freshest in my head. But there's always the chance I go and pay for a Webflow
Mhm.
site or something like that. With Webflow, you do have to pay if you want to get a custom domain, which is a little annoying, but it's not the
Yeah.
biggest deal in the world. And that would save me a lot of time. Instead of having to set up deployment
Mhm.
pipelines and all that stuff for a code website, I could, just have that done
Yeah.
snap of a finger. But we'll see. We'll see what I end up doing. Um, either way, I can make it look as
Very
professional as I
cool.
want. So,
Well, if you need any testimonials, hit me up. Happy to provide.
yeah, no, I will be
I
hitting you
need to
up
do
for
that
some
myself.
testimonials.
Granted, we've had like a bunch of new clients recently. Not all the projects have been released yet, but like that's an important
Mhm.
part of the process if you're doing client work. If anyone out there is like a corporate filmmaker wants to get into that, like get your testimonials. Like we had Comcast as a client recently, and we wrapped the project and realized I'm like, shit, I need to get a testimonial from them, put on my website, like saying how awesome we are. But
Mhm.
anyway, that goes back to marketing. Colin, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, taking the time to speak with us. Do you have? This is again more of a question for like our filmmakers who are promoting their work, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you have social media channels we could check you out on?
Yeah, I do. I am on Instagram at Duffbuster is my handle. My website is mackeydev.com. You can go and check out my mildly shoddy work, so feel free. But yeah, that's about it. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I got off that stuff. But
Okay.
yeah, that's about it.
Cool, man. Well, thank you. And I want to remind everybody to check out the latest contests at our website. Summer narrative and documentary contests are open. Check them out at filmfund.co to submit your entry, and check out our social media channels at the Film Fund on Instagram, at Simply Film Fund on Twitter. What is it? Facebook.com/FilmFundCo, and LinkedIn if you want that corporate John, the Film Fund. Very straightforward there. And check our website out for the most up-to-date information. Check out our blog too, blog.thefilmfund.co, for great filmmaking and producing tips. Sign up for our newsletter and follow us on those social platforms to stay up to date on what's happening at the Film Fund. More plugs. We also have an ebook. Go to thefilmfund.co/resources to check out tips on the pre-production process if you're really interested in those ideas Colin was talking about in terms of like creating ideas and
Hmm.
mood boarding and blue skying. You could package that into a script and start scheduling the hell out of it to get it made. So check out that ebook. And I want to thank everyone again. If you've been listening to these episodes, you'll hear me say, oh, we release them once a month. We release them every 2 weeks. We release them every Friday. Finally have landed on, and I've probably said this 10 times, but landed on every other Friday. So this one will be posted. We have a little bit of a backlog. It's probably a few weeks out from now at least, but every other Friday, check out thefilmfund.co/podcast or listen wherever you get podcasts. Colin, thank you again. Anything else you want to add?
No, go out there and have fun.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Thanks,
Talk to you
Tom.
soon. See everybody.
Talk to you soon.